Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, joined once again with Dale, continuing our Disney retrospective up to 49 today, with a bit of a special entry. This one, bit of a return to form, bit of return to traditional animation. It's 2009's Princess and the Frog. I think we mentioned last week this was one that I was really excited to go back to. It's one that I've watched a whole bunch of times. Never actually watched it when it came back to the cinema, so I kind of need to practice what I preach here. I'm like, we need to give our money towards Disney films that we want to see. I probably should have gone to the cinema and threw some money at this film when it came out, but I didn't. I picked this up when it came out on DVD, and it really does feel like that return to form, and I think that very much was at the forefront of the filmmakers' idea with this one. How long had it been since you watched this one? You watched this a while ago, or?
I watched it first time, I don't know, about 8 years ago, something like that. I've only watched it twice.
Yeah.
So I watched it the first time about 8 years ago. Then this time was today. I watched it. So yeah, only twice. It's weird. It is good. But we were saying briefly before it. I find it very average as well at the same time.
I think, if you compare it to sort of other Disney films from the Disney Renaissance, which I think it's very fair to do with this one, just by design, it's back to that Broadway musical style of storytelling with all of the musical numbers, the familiar Disney princess elements to it, as well as the animation, big push for it, as well as the directors as well. John Musker and Ron Clements directed this one. Absolute powerhouse team behind some of the best Disney films, as far as I'm concerned, from the mid to late 80s, throughout the 90s and into the 2000s. You have The Great Mouse Detective, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, and then this one. They were kind of given carte blanche with this one too, which was really interesting. The CEOs and chief of creatives and everything wanted to bring them on board again, and wanted to come back with another traditional animated Disney film. It's almost like going back to their roots in many ways. I feel like we've kind of discussed this the last few weeks. It almost feels like Disney's lost their way a little bit with the likes of Chicken Little and, we'll say, The Wild. I know it's not technically a Disney animated classic, only by name only. But even in terms of like
that bit out.
Yes, yeah. But even like Meet the Robinsons and Bolt, which I didn't think were bad movies, I actually enjoyed both of them. I think I enjoyed Bolt a little bit more. But yeah, when you do get back to this one, there is that sense of this is what Disney used to be about. This feels more traditional, as traditional animation is what it's called. And I really do appreciate them for like wanting to go back to that and sort of rekindle the magic that was perhaps a little bit lost since the last few years, since the traditional animation division was dissolved in 2003.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, I had some views on us being in a simulation which are not relevant to this, but yeah. But no, to be fair, this I do like the I think all the animation is really, really great in it. So like obviously in the swamp and stuff where it splashes on the screen, I think it just looks outstanding.
Yeah, I think in terms of animation, the animations never look this good. I mean, there have been fantastically animated films before, but maybe it is just, and badly, yes. Maybe it's just because it has been a while watching them sequentially, and even if you look at the years as well, 5 years. Is it 5 years? 4 years. Sorry, no. Maths. My math ain't mathing. 5 years since Home on the Range. That's a long time, considering Disney were cranking out these films annually. To kind of be divorced away from that style that kind of made the company what it is to begin with is a very long time. So it really does feel like a bit of a tour de force. But as you said, it's maybe not the massive hit Disney were expecting. And there's a lot of contributing factors for that, which I'll go into. I'll go into it right now. So it made a fair bit of money. It was a budget of 105 million and it made 271. Which at that time was the most successful traditional animated Disney film since Lilo and Stitch in 2002. Because the box office returns, and this was probably a big contributing factor as to why they moved to computer animation in the first place, when the initial decision was to put the kibosh on any traditional animated Disney films and to focus solely on computer animation, was those dwindling box office returns, which sort of crept in kind of around well, I'd say the lower box office returns came in from Emperor's New Groove and sort of steadily declined with each one. The Treasure Planet, which was a massive loss, and then Brother Bear was, I think Brother Bear made a fair bit, but nothing to shout about. And then Home on the Range.
Boring.
But doesn't it feel so much better than some of the other ones we've had the last few weeks, though?
What, Brother Bear?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's comparing shit to shit. Like, you know what I mean?
There's a lot of like in Brother Bear. As well, you could go back and watch that Brother Bear.
It's not the worst thing ever, but like I say, it's not one I've gone back to.
Yeah. But there have been a number of sort of pointing fingers over the years and people looking back as to why this perhaps didn't sort of like have the uproarious, is that the word? Whatever. The big box office return that they were hopefully expecting compared to some of the last ones. Number one is the title. They've kind of like focus grouped a lot of things, and some people have backtracked and said having princess in the title probably pigeonholes it. So some people think it's more of a girls' film. That probably turns off, like a certain demographic to go and see the film. And people will think it's just a movie for little girls to go and see. So therefore, they're not making as much money as they could have done.
I see it as it's a Disney classic. You expect that. You expect it to be a princess movie. Well, not expect it always to be a princess movie, but you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. I wouldn't think I personally wouldn't anyway think it's a movie for little girls.
Yeah. And I think this was, oh God, what was his name? Catmull. I think was he something to do with, it was either Disney or Pixar. I can't remember which one he is. Is he like a CEO or something? But anyway, he talks about the marketing department. And he says that the word princess in the title, quote, would lead moviegoers to think the film was for girls only. And then he said he thinks it was almost like a stupid pill because they did mention it that it was probably going to detract from a lot of box office returns, but they decided to put that in the title anyway. I don't know if that was a contributing factor. What certainly was a contributing factor in 2009 is the fact that this movie was released 1 week before James Cameron's Avatar, which is insane because obviously that movie made all of the money and would have been completely this would have been completely overshadowed by it.
Well, to be fair, so it would have made more. You're saying if it wasn't released at that time, if it was released like maybe a week difference, it would have done better.
Yeah.
It's the same with when Van Halen released their last album. So they released it in February of 2012, and Adele's album 21 was at number one for like 12 weeks. It was at number one. It sold so many copies, and Different Kind of Truth went to number two. Now, if it was released any other time that wasn't that time that released it during Adele's album, for I don't know whose ridiculous idea that was, it would have gone to number one.
Mm-hmm.
Same shit, really, isn't it?
I guess so. But I know someone who does love this movie. Brian Emery in the comments says, "I love this movie. It would be good for a Kingdom Hearts world." I agree. I think it would too. I think just visually, I'd love to see a Dr. Facilier boss fight with all the voodoo magic and the evil spirits that, they could be the Heartless that he sends out after you. I think.
I think Dr. Facilier. Yeah, right. I think he would, I think he'd be a good villain, but I think a kind of Maleficent kind of goes to a few other worlds. He controls the Heartless rather than just his normal shadows. I think that would have worked. I don't know as a world, but I think him as a character would be absolutely amazing.
You'd have a lot of different environments. You'd have like Mama Udi's place, with what's the background? That would be really cool to see.
Doesn't she remind you of the Boob Lady?
You mentioned this ages ago. What do you mean the Boob Lady? I've forgotten who it was.
Yeah, who did I compare?
Oh, it was in The Simpsons, was it? Was it the Simpsons movie? You mentioned the Boob Lady.
Where she had the boobs and she throws them over her back. Like, who did I compare the Boob Lady to before?
I can't remember.
She reminds me of the Boob Lady.
Yeah, I can't say I remember the Boob Lady, surprisingly. It's been a while since I watched the Simpsons movie.
She's great. She has big boobs.
Well, with a name like the Boob Lady, I think it would be surprising if she didn't, to be honest. But yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, so is it John Lasseter who was part of Pixar / Disney at the time? He 7 years later, after the film was released, he looked back, and this is an interesting quote here. I'll be interested to see if you agree, because I know I certainly don't. This was with an interview with Variety, and he says, quote, "I was determined to bring back hand-drawn animation because I felt it was such a heritage of the Disney studio, and I love the art form. I was stunned that Princess and the Frog didn't do better. We dug into it and did a lot of research and focus groups. It was viewed as old-fashioned by the audience." That really hurts.
I don't know.
Was there that much of a shift in the landscape with computer animated films during the 2000s?
There wasn't that I remember, but I remember when all movies were 2D, and I'm trying to think. Are they all 3D now?
Pretty much, yeah.
Not just Disney, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you get some like Eastern animated films.
Yeah, maybe it's just me, or maybe it's because I watch a lot of anime that I see it. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't see the shift that big. I saw it as Disney were doing it, and a lot of the big companies were, but I thought they were still being made more than they probably are.
Yeah. The thing is, as well, like I think if this one had have been huge, then they would have considered. Well, Disney already around this time were considering releasing a new hand-drawn film every 2 years. So I guess it would have been some kind of like alternating thing. 1 year you get 3D, CGI, another year you get traditional hand-drawn. And after this, 2 years later, you'd get Winnie the Pooh from 2011, which should be in our classics list. And it technically is a Disney animated classic, but that's on the US list. We'll be reviewing that film once we've finished the retrospective, and we'll be going back and adding Dinosaur and Winnie the Pooh. That technically is the last traditional hand-drawn Disney animated film that they've done, and it's about an hour long, barely. It just scrapes over 60 minutes. And it was going to be followed up by The Snow Queen, an adaptation of The Snow Queen, which would later, become Frozen and would later become CGI rather than traditional. So, yeah, it's a shame because they sort everyone out. Everyone that got fired and let go when they dissolved the traditional animation division around 2003. They got them all back. They contacted a lot of them and said, like, "Hey, we're making Princess and the Frog. Come on board. We're doing another traditional hand-drawn one again. Going back to basics. We need you guys," which I thought was really sweet. I mean, I would have told them to go swivel personally, but if they're passionate about the art form and what they do, I can imagine, they jump at the chance to come back, to then stick around for another couple of years, do Winnie the Pooh, and then be like, "Yeah, we're letting you go again. We're firing you."
I fucking hate it. I really hate this 3D animation shit, because to me it was Pixar did the 3D.
Yeah,
and Disney was Disney.
Well, it's the acquisition, though, wasn't it? The merging of the two.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, because they don't feel like Disney classics a lot of the time. But I said this before. It'll be interesting when we get to Frozen, which I really see as Disney classic, and I absolutely love that movie. How much I compare it, or Tangled, which is next week. Obviously, how much I really compare it going through this retrospective. So it will be interesting to see, but I don't know. I just miss the 2D animation.
A lot of the original Disney artists, well, I say original Disney artists, but you know what I mean, the artists from around this time, they started work on their own projects, and it was a project that I was following for ages on Facebook, and every now and then they'd release concept arts, and I think a lot of it was sort of backed by fans, like a kind of GoFundMe kind of thing. And they were wanting to work on a feature film. I don't know if they ever made it to a feature film. I think they managed to do sort of like 3 animated shorts set within this world. It's kind of like a steampunky environment to it. It looked a little bit Victorian steampunk, I guess more like Treasure Planet kind of style. And it was called Hullabaloo. And I was following it, and it looked really, really good. In exactly the same vein as, traditional Disney stuff. And I don't know what happened. I didn't hear what happened to the project. I think it was released, and there's the animated shorts out there. I don't know if you can only watch it if you sort of like buy into it. I don't know if it got a widespread release in some way. I need to go and look for it. And then the same people were also involved in a Netflix movie from 2019 called Klaus, which I think did that win Best Animated Feature? No, I think it was nominated for it, and I always thought it should have won because it was outstanding. It did look very digital, but it was still, traditional, hand-drawn in some ways as well. So, yeah, it's a shame. So, anyway, that's kind of the preamble and sort of the landscape of the legacy of this film and just the animation in general. I knew this was going to be a big talking point because This is kind of a blip in the radar. It is the last hurrah of that visual style of what you come to expect from a Disney movie. And from here on in, it's pretty much going to be, well, it is CGI all the way forward after this. But there are some good movies in there still. So, yeah, swings and roundabouts. Right, where do we start with this thing then? So there's some behind the scenes to talk about with this one, but I'd rather talk about characters and songs and music. And
yeah, I was going to say, start with characters.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about Tiana then. Let's talk about our leads. So, it's the first African-American Disney princess character, which is really funny because there was a lot of backlash about this movie, about the depiction of her and this and that. And I'll go into it later with the criticisms. And it's almost like, look, you're doomed if you do, and you're doomed if you don't. If you don't make an African-American princess, then years later, the same people will be kicking off. Why, we have white Disney princesses, we have Chinese princess. Why don't we have one that's black? Mm-hmm. And then you give them one. It's like, here you go, here's Tiana, and then they kick off and complain about it. So people are never satisfied, as we see. But I really like Tiana as a character. I like her personality, and I like that. It's kind of like it's getting into that meta quality, I suppose, a little bit that we see with some of the modern Disney princesses, in that there's a lot of traditional themes in there, like the wishing upon a star. That's how the film opens, and it's very Pinocchio. It's going back to what we've seen before and the traditional tropes. But then they throw in that realism, sort of that more postmodernist side coming into it, where it's like, you can wish on a star, you can have a dream, but you've got to put the hard work in yourself and you've got to make it happen. You've got to struggle. You've got to work 2 or 3 jobs a day, save the money, and go after what you want. And there's also, it's very much downplayed, I guess, because it's a Disney film. They don't want to show the real side of it, of what New Orleans would have been like in the 1920s and race relations and whatnot. There's subtle hints at the racism and the bit where she's like trying to get the down payment for the restaurant that she wants to buy, and you get lines like, well, it's not suitable for a woman of your background, kind of thing. It's kind of feeding into it a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I thought she was okay. I wouldn't say Tiana's necessarily like this amazing. I thought she was okay. I thought the idea of using, New Orleans and, the environment and everything, I thought was really, really great. Her as a character I think there was a lot of good to her. But this isn't a criticism, but she was very Cinderella. Like, it's not like she didn't feel the most unique ever. It was kind of like, okay, cool. And I liked her. I'm not putting her down. I don't think there's anything she could have done differently that would have made her better. And there's too many weaknesses. I just think she's one of the average kind of, if you put her in ranking of Disney princesses, she'd be one of the lower ones down for me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned Cinderella, because I know that was an inspiration for this film.
And the dress.
I don't know specifically, but the directors mentioned in the past when they did Aladdin and Little Mermaid that a big inspiration for the golden age of Disney was Cinderella that they went back to, which in and of itself, Cinderella in 1950 was a massive movie, because you'd just come out of the war era movies, and that was right. We're back to full feature films now, so it was huge. And also kind of, I think if they'd have gone with the original concept for the character, for Tiana's character, then I think you could draw even more parallels to Cinderella and sort of where she finds herself at the beginning. So originally, she was going to have a different name. She was going to be called Maddie, which drew a lot of criticism because they felt that some critics felt that the name Maddie was too close to the derogatory term mammy, like the stereotype of the like black housemaid, enslaved house worker kind of thing.
Well, I want to put one thing straight. Never heard that derogatory term in my life. Never heard that before.
I've heard of it. But I wouldn't have drew the comparison to it myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, and second, even if I had, I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, like it rhymes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That's like calling your son Jacob and being like, it's derogatory because of crackers, Jacob's crackers. It's like you're literally reaching. Like, you know what I mean? That's like that. I think it's just, there's just so many fucking idiots out there.
And also, she was going to be a chambermaid. That was going to be a career at the beginning. and this was reworked. There was a whole bunch of criticism, like those two that I mentioned. It was the choice to have the love interest be a non-black prince as well, because you have Prince Naveen, and I guess he's sort of mixed race, isn't he?
What's the thing? Like, it's like you can't have a non-black prince as a love interest. Name, if you were to name 5 black girls that are dating white guys, it's very easy to do. You know what I mean? It's not like it's illegal. It's not like it doesn't happen. It's weird. If we had like friends, for instance, about 6 friends, obviously 6 friends that are white. If we added a black person in to constantly be the 7th, but having a relationship with one of them, which I know they do at one point technically, but you know what I mean? If they do that, no one cares. But because it's this, you've got like a white prince. It's like, oh, you can't. It's like, why?
And also the use of a black male voodoo witch doctor as the villain, which I think personally is the strongest aspect about this film. I love the villain. I love the style of the villain.
You wouldn't have a movie set in fucking 1920s New Orleans and not cater towards stereotypes and this sort of stuff. It's like you don't have a movie set in Africa and have it full of white people. You don't have a movie set in New York and have it full of black people. It's like, you know what I mean? Stereotypes exist and they are there and it's a thing and we play on it, and this is why we have fun and we can do things, but it annoys me.
And also, if you're going to set it in, Louisiana, New Orleans, it's the birthplace of voodoo as far as I'm concerned, if I remember rightly, and it's a big aspect to the culture. Now, they might be thinking, oh, well, it's vilified, voodoo isn't like this. It's in this film, it's depicted as evil and whatnot, but it's like, it's animated, have some creative liberty with it. And, Pocahontas, for fuck's sake, we talked about that. And yeah, if you're going to compare that to history, it's absolutely diabolical telling of the story. Of course it is. But you can still view the film on its own. And you can do creative things with the voodoo and like the spirits and whatnot. Like Dr. Facilier is like fucking awesome. In my opinion, criminally underused in the film. I think he's almost like that Darth Maul aspect to it, where he's like really fucking cool and intimidating, and Dr. Facilier's got some swagger to it. Yeah, Keith David, fucking hell, like my god, he was the voice of Goliath, I believe, in Gargoyles. Sorry, not Gladiators. What am I talking about? Gargoyles. That was a Disney show, wasn't it? I think back in the day, or it was bought by Disney eventually.
Yeah.
Is amazing, and just he exudes that personality and the style and the way the character moves and everything. His song and dance number, he's fucking great. I want to see more of him, and what we see of him is good, but he doesn't have that staying power as like a Maleficent or a Jafar, or he fades more into the obscure side of things, unfortunately, when I think he probably could have been
I think he could utilize. This is why I say him as a character in Kingdom Hearts would work so well. I think he can be utilized a lot better than he was, and I don't think he's downplayed too much. I think he is used, like, because when he's there, he's great. He's not like used and it's a missed opportunity. When he's used and he's really, really good. But yeah, I think seeing more of him wouldn't be an issue at all.
And do you want to hear another really petty criticism here? It's about the setting it in New Orleans. So in 2005, you had Hurricane Katrina that hit, which resulted in apparently in the expulsion of a large number of mostly black residents from New Orleans. So they criticized the filmmakers for setting it there because it was apparently an affront to the Katrina victims.
Why? So basically, because there was a tornado,
you can't set it there. Yeah,
in a place. Apparently.
Yeah, you can't set it there. No.
Fuck. So we can't have TV shows in New York anymore. Okay. There are also bombings in London, so that one's out.
Yeah.
Fuck. We might as well just like have things set on Mars and be done with it. Like, that is the stupidest criticism ever.
It is this mentality, isn't it? It's like, you can't do this because it'll offend this person, and then you also can't do that. And you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do this. Oh, well, don't make the fucking movie then. What do you want us to do?
Offended? Who literally watches this shit and cries? This is what I don't get. Who actually sits there, watches a Disney movie and shields their eyes and goes, "No, I don't like it. It offends me." Who does that? If I had a friend and I was sat there and if we were sat there, watching a Disney movie and a friend going, "I can't watch this. It offends me," I'd be like, "What the fuck are you on?" Like, how? It's like, it's like getting scared at the Teletubbies. I mean, to be fair, that's more reasonable to be fair, but you know what I
Yes,
mean.
yeah, no, that is terrifying.
You know, but it's weird, isn't it? It's
Uh-huh.
just I don't know. I don't get it.
But no, Facilia, it's every time I watch the movie, I'm kind of hoping for more of him. I don't know. I don't know if he's sort of like it's just because he doesn't appear in the movie all that much, and it's just kind of very plot driven every time he's there.
Do you know what? One thing I know this is a bit of a segue, but I want to mention the end credits on how they are very Bambi, very beginning credits of old movies.
Yeah,
they're very with the flowers and with everything, and just the art style. It's very. I just love that. I think a lot of it harkens back to old Disney.
well, very interesting you say that. That was going to be my next point. Just going to veer off to the animation now. There's still a lot of characters I want to talk about, so we will segue back to some of the characters. But the animation and design, there's a comparison here. And one of the primary inspirations for this movie, in many ways, was a film that, out of all the Disney films that we've talked about, I believe you've got on record saying is your favorite. So this should be interesting. See if you agree here. So the two directors, Clements and Musger, agreed early on that they were aiming primarily for a style that harkened back to Lady and the Tramp.
I like that movie. That's a good one.
And John Lasseter felt, apparently, was quoted saying the pinnacle of Disney's style was Lady and the Tramp. So you might have been onto something there after all. I like it, but it's not one that I find particularly memorable all the time.
You know, it does make sense, but I saw the style more as. Yeah, no, I can see that, but I did see more Bambi kind of influence. But then again, I am just thinking of that the end credits and that sort of stuff. I'm not really. So yeah, I do see that. But then I also get flooded with like 101 Dalmatians, and I'm like, that is very different.
Well, I'm getting onto the Bambi thing in a minute because you're absolutely right about that. So Lasseter said this is referring to Lady and the Tramp. We're saying after that film, so after that, everything started to become more stylized, like Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, which are fantastic films as well, but there's a particular style to Lady and the Tramp that's so classically Disney. So apparently Lady and the Tramp informed the New Orleans setting for everything, whereas Bambi served as the inspiration for all of the scenes set in the bayou. With the painted backgrounds and that immersion that Bambi really brought back in the day. They wanted to kind of adopt that art style. And one of the art directors, Ian Gooding, apparently said, quote, Bambi painted what it feels like to be in the forest instead of the forest. So, end quote. And that's what they tried to bring to Princess and the Frog. Do you agree with that? Do you think you can see that in terms of the animation when you watch it on screen?
Yeah. It's a big reminder of that sort of stuff, and it's just it just feels right at home with animation style Disney wise. It's a nice final 2D animation movie.
Yeah, and it's nice hearing about the animators talk about this film as well. So one of the veteran Disney animators, Andreas Day, apparently was quoted as saying. He supervised the character of Mama Odie, but he said, quote, I always thought that maybe we should distinguish ourselves to go back to what 2D is good at, which is focusing on what the line can do rather than volume, which is a CG kind of thing. So we are doing less extravagant Treasure Planet kind of treatments. You have to create a world. We're doing it more simply. What we're trying to do with Princess and the Frog is hook up with things that the old guys did earlier. End quote. I thought that, again, it's that back to basics approach. And I can kind of see what he means. Like, even the best films in the Disney Renaissance, I think from like Rescuers Down Under, you had that CG element to it a little bit more with like the digital camera, and we're making these huge, massive, sweeping cinematic shots that are impossible to do. Which carried all the way through the Disney Renaissance. And I actually really like that blend. Even, he mentions Treasure Planet, which does have a lot of CGI elements in there. But I still really like that movie and think it's really dynamic. But I can understand, when you look at this film, it does feel a lot simpler in its design and how it's telling the story and what it's doing visually.
Yeah, there's not too much of that. There's no over-the-top stuff, really. It's all very, very basic. I don't think they went too deep on, we need to do this, we need to do this. It was just a nice, simple, let's just make a movie.
Well, one of my favorite bits, it's kind of like blended a lot of different art styles. It's during the Almost There song number, where it's this like Art Deco design and everything's really bright and vibrant and a completely different style to the animation when Tiana's imagining what her restaurant's going to look like once it's opened. I really love that segment. It reminded me of something, almost kind of like a little bit different style, but the Rhapsody in Blue kind of stuff from Fantasia 2000.
See, I also thought that on was it Melody Time? I think I compared it to as well. There was a few scenes that were very, that sort of style as well. I do think a lot of this was supposed to be a simple, and it gave that off exactly as it needed to be. It didn't look like it tried too hard.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And to that end, I think it was a success. But maybe because it is that simpler style and it's not as showy, maybe that's why it's considered slightly more forgettable amongst the Disney pantheons. Well, probably because Disney didn't really push it. Like, I don't remember much merchandise for this thing, or like, no McDonald's push. I don't remember many trailers for this film coming out. And then, as we mentioned, it's been overshadowed by Avatar at the box office, so I think it kind of got screwed over that way a little bit, which is a shame. So, similar to Treasure Planet, that wasn't really pushed.
Similar to Van Halen.
Similar to Van Halen, exactly. So the film itself apparently was a combination of a lot of ideas that both Disney and Pixar were working on at the time. I guess it was going to be like a Ants Bugs Life situation, because Disney and Pixar were both concurrently working on a telling of the Frog Prince, or the what they're called, the Frog Princess stories. So one was based on the Frog Princess, which is the one that they ended up going with, which is where the princess kisses the prince, but it also turns her into a frog. And apparently one that was floating around Pixar was going to be a pitch on the Frog Prince, which was going to be set in a gangster era Chicago, which is interesting. And apparently there was also a pitch for another Pixar film that was tentatively titled The Spirit of New Orleans, which was apparently an inspiration for this as well. So probably with the merging, hodgepodge of different ideas and everything. And yeah, like the directors were just given carte blanche for this thing. It was like, go make your movie, use whatever animation style you want. And, they went and got all of the people in and all the talent from way back when. Clearly with like the music and the Broadway number, it is trying to go back to that old style. And maybe, I don't know, I'm getting a bit tinfoil hatty here, but maybe there was that kind of internal disruption as well from some of those old traditional hand-drawn people, where it's like, we know that Disney's kind of gone astray a little bit and we want to try and, go the old route and sort of bring the magic back and do what we used to do kind of thing. Even from the directors, maybe. But I think the directors do go on to direct Moana, so they do CGI stuff as well.
Which is apparently a good movie, which I've never seen.
I really like it. It'll be interesting to watch it again. But I really enjoy it. So yeah, and the music as well. So Alan Menken was originally, good old Alan Menken, one of the finest composers who ever lived, as far as I'm concerned. The life and the soul of the Disney Renaissance. He was reportedly asked to come back to do the score, and I kind of would like to have seen what he would have done with it. I think if you are going for that sense of getting the gang back together kind of thing, which I get the impression that this film was, I kind of would have liked to have seen Alan Menken in there as well, just to really cement it. But he was scoring Enchanted at the time, sort of around 2006, 2007. So I think it was Lasseter thought that the music might be a bit too repetitive between the two films. So he reached out to Randy Newman, who was a jazz composer and actually grew up in New Orleans and had worked on a number of animated films before, mostly for Pixar, but he had also done one of my favorite films growing up, actually. It was a 2D animated film called Cats Don't Dance. I don't know if you ever remember that one. Did you ever see that?
Randy Newman also sounds deaf whenever he talks.
He does.
Very,
But yeah, Cats Don't Dance. You ever see that one? It was a 97 movie.
I did not, no.
Very, very underrated 2D film, in my opinion. Was it 20th Century Fox who did that?
Here's a sad fact. I mentioned to someone a while ago, because a song came on the radio, and I was like, oh, this sounds like Randy Newman. And they were like, who's that?
Oh.
I know. That's sad.
But yeah, so I know sometimes Randy Newman, his music gets criticized for being a bit too samey. A lot of the tracks sounding the same. Do you agree with that, or do you think most of the songs in this have their own unique style to them?
Do you know what? I can see what people mean. I can, but you could say that about anyone. Everyone's
Yeah.
got their own style and everyone's got their own thing. So it really depends. I wouldn't say they all sound the same, but it just depends how prominent someone's style is and how, he's got a flair and he uses that flair a lot. I wouldn't say he sounds the same though.
Mm. I'm just trying to say that there are a lot of songs in this film. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then reprises of some as well. I don't know. Maybe it clocks in at the same amount of songs that we had before. But the pacing of the song seems very what's the word I'm looking for? It's pretty much like only a minute or so will go by between songs. It's like, oh, we're doing another song. I forgot how quickly it went into the villain song, "Friends on the Other Side," because you have, I'm almost there, and then pretty much the next scene,
Yeah.
it's straight into "Friends on the Other Side." So I don't know. Maybe it's like a pacing issue where it just feels like there's a lot of songs all sort of coalesced into like one place in the film. But
I didn't feel like that though with this movie. I didn't feel like there was a pacing issue with the music.
no,
Not really. I thought it was done all very well.
yeah.
It was weird because it didn't feel like a musical, but it felt like everything was spaced out where it should have been.
I think some of the songs do fall into the same equality a bit for what we're doing. You've got "When We're Human," which is sung by the alligator character Louis and Tiana and Naveen. And then not long after that, you've got the lightning bug one's Raymond song where it's like "Going Down the Bayou," and it's like another we're traveling down the bayou kind of song. It's the same kind of thing. You got "Dig a Little Deeper," which is singing about, we need to work out what we want most in life and everything like that. So I don't know that I can see the criticism for this where they get it a little bit samey. That being said, I do really like all the songs in this one. Do I like them as much as maybe Alan Menken ones? Probably not. However, there's one that we're in a position today where we can actually say, what's your favorite song? Do you remember when we used to do that for the Disney films?
When was the last time that happened?
Well, that would have been, oh God, which one had like a whole bunch of songs in? Did we do it for Lilo and Stitch?
No.
Did we not? Oh, a Brother Bear, maybe. It was probably Brother Bear. Yes, it was. It was because you had a bunch of Phil Collins songs in that one, didn't you? It feels like a long time since we've had one, though. For me, easy. "Friends on the Other Side." I think it's a fantastic villain song.
No, do you know what's it called? The open one, New Orleans.
Oh, "Down in New Orleans."
Yeah, I just love that. It's bouncy, it's fun. I love that. And there's another one. Fuck, what's it called? That I absolutely love the intro. Fuck, what's it called? It's another it's really bouncy.
It's gonna take you there. Is it the lightning bug one?
I think
It feels like it's played on like a squeeze box kind of thing at the beginning.
Yeah, and I just love that.
It there, we're gonna take it there, we're gonna take it all the way down.
I just love the whole bouncy feel that this whole movie has with the music, and I think the music's great. The thing is, it's not Disney Renaissance music. It's not, but I think it's amazing. It's unique as well. It's the only Disney movie to have music like it. It's unique. It's great. It's fun. I don't feel like there's really a bad song in the mix.
Yeah, there's a lot of different styles as well. I mean, New Orleans is famed for its music. I've always said if I ever go to America, if I could only go to one place in America, it would be New Orleans. It would be those kind of, or Memphis or something like that.
Mafia 3 is set in New Orleans.
Oh, is it?
And there's a load of black people, and I think there's a black voodoo woman.
Cool. Saints Row 2 had a voodoo guy, didn't it? I think.
Yeah.
You couldn't kill him. The guy was like immortal.
Yeah, and then his son was what's that guy called? Plays that guy in that thing. He's the gay one. He's the gay guy, and I can see his face. He's blonde.
What are we talking about?
he's the man. He's in.
Have you been hanging out at Heaven at night time? Like, what are we talking about?
No, he plays the guy in Saints Row 2. What's his name? He's in How I Met Your Mother.
I can't remember his name.
I keep saying Robert Downey Jr. in my head.
Neil Patrick Harris. Are you talking about him? He's not blonde, is he?
Yeah, but either way, it's him, and he's in Saints Row 2.
Oh shit! I didn't know
he
was in
plays
that
like
game.
His son. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that. But yeah, loads of different musical styles to this film. You've got jazz, blues, classic genres of music that came out of New Orleans.
The music is the reason I first ever watched this movie, because I watched it years ago, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "Oh, you'll love this. You'll love the music in it. It's really cool." And this is the thing that drew me to it, to be fair.
Yeah. You've even got like kind of gospel in there, I guess, when you get to the Mama Odie song as well, with the big, the scene that I've used for the background, because I absolutely love the colors in that scene. The flamingos really remind me of Fantasia 2000 as well, with the yo-yo.
I'm not a big fan of Mama Fatty.
Really well, I guess she's kind of a spin on the whole fairy godmother trope a little bit, isn't she?
I feel she's very... Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Well, she's like the wise sage character, isn't she? She's, it's the...
Well, if you want a wise sage character, have Mr. Miyagi.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, because...
We've got a new Karate Kid movie film coming out next year. Get hype.
Well, there you go. See, we just need a wise old Asian man.
Let's see. So yeah, I think my favorite song is "Friend on the Other Side," which it's kind of like a lot of dialogue, really. It's like the card reading and whatnot. But then it's that ending of the song, like the visuals go nuts, everything goes like fiber optic and glow in the dark, and that's when the magic starts happening, and you get that like boom boom boom, are you ready, that like chant, like, oh god, I love that so much. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But my favorite character, Dr. Facilier's up there, but he lacked a little bit of staying power for me. Raymond Scott. Let's talk about Raymond. He's not my favorite, but let's talk about Raymond. Is he your favorite character in this?
Yes, he's great. I just love his voice. Raymond.
Well, great. Jim Cummins. Disney royalty at this point.
Jim Cummins, Winnie the Pooh, Raymond. I just think he's great. I think he's got a great voice where he comes in and it's so, what's the word, where it just springs on you. It's got that, and it's just got so much depth. I just think it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's a fun character.
You can see a lot by a character's voice, but by the way someone speaks. That says a lot. The tone of their voice, the way they speak, body language, and especially if you're blind, it is that their tone of voice. So I think the tone of voice is something I say everyone can appreciate. If you're deaf, you can't. But it's that tone of voice, and it's the presentation of someone is the way you can say a lot about. It says a lot about the person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jim Cummins is great, isn't he? I love the Cajun accent to the character as well. That's a really cool dynamic in the Bayou. What do you think about his death? Do you think that kind of comes out the blue a little bit? Do you think just tonally it gets a little bit confused towards the end, or do you think that needed to be in the film?
I think it's handled well. I don't think it's too out of the blue, but remember, I'm very what's the word? I'm a firm believer of not everything needs to be this needs to happen. This needs to happen. And this. I'm a very firm believer on sometimes things do spring you by surprise, and I don't think it was as much a surprise as you think.
Well, I don't think it reinforces much in terms of the plot, apart from him sort of appearing in the sky as another star next to Evangeline. It's just.
I mean, the thing is, I'm a firm believer in not everything needs to enhance the plot. Not everything needs to sway us more to, this happened for a reason. Not everything needs to happen for a reason. Not everything in life happens for a reason.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I just wonder from tonally, we beat the villain back, and then it's we have a funeral scene for the lightning bug, and everyone's really sad. And
I like when characters die.
You like George R. R. Martin. Yep. Just no one is safe.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just something I wanted to bring up. It doesn't ruin the film for me, but it's something that always kind of catches me off guard a little bit. Oh, okay, bit of a downer. Everyone's really sad. Funeral scene for the lightning bug character.
Are you kind of in In-Betweeners where Will's with that big girl and They're like, her dad just died. He's like,
it's not really relevant though.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, it's not relevant, but continue. That's what you're like with his death. Like, yeah, all right, but
yeah,
let's move on.
It's just there. It's just there. We'll talk about. Well, I guess we could talk about Naveen a little bit, really. So he's the
I'm
sort
not
of
a fan.
man-child kind of character, isn't he? Really.
I'm
Again,
not a
you
fan.
could kind of view it as this postmodernist, modern Disney sort of creeping in a little bit more, where we're kind of picking apart the stereotypes. And they've done this before. They've done this loads of times. Probably one of the biggest examples I can think of is the character of Gaston for the villain. We've taken what in other times he would be the main hero lead. He would be the hero of the piece. And we've taken all of those tropes and we've turned it into a villain, and we've managed to spin it in a different way. And it's kind of the same with this one as well. You imagine like the dashing prince, the hero of everything, and he's completely clueless. He's not rich. He doesn't come from an affluent family. He's lost all of his money. His parents cut him off. And he's looking to marry a rich woman. In there, he's fond of music, but he really doesn't have any kind of responsibilities, and has to find those through the journey and through his pairing with Tiana. So, yeah, what do you think of Naveen then? Not too keen?
Nah, not really. He's very one-dimensional to me. He's there, he exists. Good for him.
Yeah.
If his dad had shot a different load that day, it wouldn't really make a difference. So he's I don't know. He's one-dimensional. He's not bad. He's just nothing special. Kind of like Mama Odie.
Yeah.
Is that her name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Odie. I got it right. I'm terrible with names, as you know. But yeah, it's like her, very there, and it's nothing spectacular.
Yeah. You also have like his valet as well, who I guess kind of eventually functions as the villain's sidekick a little bit, if you want to call him that, like the little dumpy little character who's very put upon and wants to try and get his own back on Naveen, and become the prince himself. He's kind of Mr. Smee like, I suppose, is a little bit slapsticky, a bit buffoonery kind of thing.
A bit like Iago.
Well, it's I don't know. I think Iago's very different, but yeah.
I don't know. I just, I don't know why, but that's what came into my head. There's another character as well. I can't think, but yeah, I'm thinking Iago.
You've got the voices of John Goodman in there as well as Big Daddy. You've got Oprah Winfrey as Eudora. But my favorite character.
No Patrick Breadman.
No. My favorite character is Jennifer Cody as the character of Charlotte Lottie LaBeouf. I think she is so much fun. She's kind of like the oh god, what's her name? Working 9 to 5, Dolly Parton, Southern Belle, blonde, blonde bombshell kind of thing, bit bimbo-ish. But she's got a heart of gold, and I love her character so much. How old is Dolly Parton? Oh god, are you naming another one?
I just think she's quite old. That's all I'm saying.
Dolly Parton is 78 years old.
Well, my nan only lasted another 25 years, so she's got a while. To be fair, so
I absolutely love her character. I love her energy. I love her crazy mood swings. The way, just the line that she says, where she says like, "I swear I'm sweating like a sinner in church." Like I've used that in my dialogue. That
she's very she's a very Texas church going, dresses.
Well, she's a bit of a spoiled brat, but you never hate the character.
Yeah,
she seems, she's a really good friend.
But
there is that different social.
She might be popularish at school, but she's very. When she goes to church, like she's got her buttons done up. Like she's a very, that kind of girl.
Yeah, it's the different social status as well, which I think is actually, it's very subtle. And it doesn't sort of like hit you over the head with sort of like the race relations and everything at the beginning. And I know that's a criticism for some, saying like they downplayed that as to what the actual 1920s New Orleans would have actually been like. But you have, this very wealthy family with Big Daddy, and he's buying his daughter everything she wants. She has all of these incredible dresses, amazing bedroom that she's in and whatnot, and then he also buys her a puppy, and he's from like a stately home. And then Tiana and her mother get onto the tram. They also sit at the back as well, like they don't talk about it all that much, but it is there. They sit at the back of the tram, and then it like fades into sort of the less wealthy areas, the slums kind of thing, really, the ghettos, I suppose. So I think it's quite subtle in the way it is, but you never really hate Lottie, and you know she loves Tiana. She's like her best friend since childhood, and they maintain that friendship. And she is a very, very different character, completely different personality, Tiana, but she kind of works. I just really like her. She's just really likable.
Maybe it's because she's blonde.
maybe, yeah. Oh, those blondes, eh? We love them. We love them. Anything else to say about this movie? Jesus.
To be fair, it's, you know what? It's a nice, it's a nice, what's it called? I wouldn't say time capsule, but you know what I mean. It's a nice nostalgic.
Yes, good.
Feel.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
The thing is, if it was 3D, one, I couldn't imagine how it would look 3D, and second, you know, taking that away, if it was 3D, it would just be another kind of, this is cool. It wouldn't be bad. It would be entertaining, but I would put it on the same level as Bolt if it was like, you know, like a 3D movie or something. But the fact that it harkens back to a couple of things gives it an edge. It's like I say, nothing spectacular. It's a movie, yes, I would come back to, and I obviously I have, you know, because of this. But like, I would come back to, and I would put it on a. She's another Disney princess. It is a good movie. It's just, it's not your Mulan or your, you know, Beauty and the Beast. It's not quite hit that level.
I don't think it's a very tight movie. The more I think about it, like the second act, I say drags a little bit. It feels a little bit meandering. You know, when they're in the bayou and they're traveling down, and every line of dialogue just feels like, when we're human, we're going to do this. I'm going to open my restaurant. I'm going to do this, and we're going to play music all day. And then there's the bit where, do you remember the bit where like the hillbillies attack? It's like, oh yeah, that happens. We've got this little segment, and then we meet Raymond, we meet Louis, and we're still traveling down the bayou, and then we meet Mama Odie, and we're still traveling through the bayou. And I don't know, it feels like it needed more inciting incidents maybe throughout the story. Maybe get like, because Facilier as well is great, but he's not really a proactive person in the story. He's a puppet. He's put upon by the spirits. He owes them a debt, and he comes up with this plan to get them all the lost souls in New Orleans. But he sent it's the spirits that go out after the heroes. You know, it's not him getting stuck in. It's not him being a present part of being the villain. I like at the end when he uses illusions and everything on Tiana, and he says, see, this is the life you've always wanted, and he puts her in that dream scenario of her restaurant, and he's trying to persuade her to the dark side almost at that point. Like, I like that part. I think that's really effective with the villain, and I like when he gets to showcase his powers like that. And one of my favorite bits, and Keith David plays it really well, is where the little necklace thing almost gets smashed, and he like freaks the fuck out, and he gets his cane to like smack him. He goes like, do you have any idea what this could cost me if this like, I love that part of the character, that he is terrified of these spirits from the other side. All great stuff for a character. They got the look, they got the personality, they got the voice. I just don't think he's in the film enough. And I'm wondering if you actually had him go out to the bayou himself to try and get Tiana, if that would have worked better, maybe.
Do you know what? Sure. They could have maybe had it a bit slapsticky that way as well, couldn't they? He goes out, he does something, it doesn't work, then he does another thing. You know what? I wonder if that would have worked, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Because it's cool that he has all of these spirits at his disposal when he wants to, and it showcases his power, but I just don't know if it keeps him... Because he kind of disappears out of the film a lot, and then he's just kind of hanging around with the little dumpy valet kind of character. So I don't know. It's great. I really enjoy it. It is that return to form, but I think I probably do like it for the nostalgic reason of it being traditional. And as I say, like, it feels from the directors as well and from the animation style, it feels like you could place it quite nicely, quite easily in that Disney Renaissance era. Say if you had like sorry, if you had like Tarzan and then it followed straight up with this, I'd be like, yeah, great. You know, it fits right in. It is one that I come back to every so often. I do like the style of it. I think the 2D animations never look better. I love the colors. I love the style in it. The simplistic style to it. Everything really works, but there's just some... there's a little bit of a quality that's missing, and it's difficult to put your finger on what it is, but I think it's one of the reasons that it kind of flies under the radar a little bit. Everyone I know that have watched the film say they really enjoy it, so I think there is a bit of a cult following there now a little bit with this film. But yeah, it's good, but it doesn't quite achieve the heights of the likes of Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin,
I think,
Lion King, you know.
I think if Tiana was to have a smell, it would be chicken.
Oh god, we got to swiftly move on from that. Jesus Christ. Oh boy. Anyway, that's Princess and the Frog. I don't really no further questions, Your Honor. Nothing further to add. So let us know your thoughts on Princess and the Frog.
What I do like, the biggest thing is the relationship of the characters. I do like the chemistry.
Yeah, no, the chemistry is great. Yeah, no, I like how all the characters, just really nice characters, aren't they? An odd bunch of characters, but all really colourful, quirky personalities, which is funny. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on Princess and the Frog. How would you stack this up in terms of all the other Disney animated features? Do you think it's underrated? Or do you think it's overrated? Maybe you really hate this film. Next week's going to be a good one. Well, number one, we're up to Disney 50. So that's a big thing, 5-0. And then we've only got just over 10 left, I think. So not all that many weeks to go, really. Just a little over 2 months.
Like any left.
And it is a special one for Disney 50. And although it's CGI, it's very, very good. Of course, talking about Tangled. So that is going to be next week. A film I've watched loads. Honestly, probably out of the modern era of Disney, this might be my favorite. It's definitely up there.
It's a very, very good one.
It's a film that I think could easily work in 2D. I think I would have loved it in 2D. But am I mad that it's in CGI? Not really, because it looks great. And the Kingdom Hearts world looks amazing. Like you look at the graphics from that, and it looks like it's straight out of the movie. It's mental.
I watched part of the series the other day. I think it works better in 3D, but also they don't have the budget for movies, so I think it probably could have been done better. But...
yeah. But yeah, we'll be talking about that next week. So do please consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. The reason that content has been a bit light this week, you can probably tell from my voice, I am still going through, but I'm mostly getting over the flu, a cold, COVID. I don't know what it was, but it completely knocked me for 6. So I feel a little bit rough around the edges, but I should hopefully be fighting fit for next week. What's coming up on the channel? I need to upload a Rings of Power video, which got blocked. I need to edit that and get that processed and re-uploaded. So that will probably be the next video. I'll try and get that out before the end of the week.
You should do a Star Wars? Fucking hell. Lord of the Rings, the Third Age review.
I should. Well, me and Everything in Middle-earth have talked about that, talking about some of the video games. So that's potential. And towards the end of the week, probably you'll get a unboxing video. I should do something for Halloween as well, shouldn't I? That's occurred to me. It's sort of like
Beetlejuice 2.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that yet. So it is on digital now, isn't it? Or it's coming out on digital soon. So I think it is.
It must be soon because I don't think I saw it.
So yeah, maybe I'll have to watch that. Maybe that could be the Halloween review. Well, technically it's the 31st, isn't it? So I've still got time, but I've got an unboxing video I need to do at some point as well. So I'll get on that. But yeah, there will be more videos, I promise. So until then, we'll see you guys next week. Take care.